I still see your shadows in my room. Can't take back the love that I gave you. It's to the point where I love and I hate you, and I cannot change.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Secondary League Podcast, a baseball podcast presented by thepinchRunner.com. I'm baseball YouTuber and writer for the Pinch Runner, Dawson Wright, and today I am joined by Noah Wright, and as always, joined by Noah Wright, who is also from the Pinch Runner. How's it going, Noah?
It's going good.
Well, I don't really think it is, because Shohei Ohtani could be out for a long time.
It's not good.
It could even be up to the end of 2019 when he's able to come back. We're not sure yet. We'll go ahead and we'll start off with Shohei Ohtani. So,
do you want me to start?
Go ahead.
With it. So Ohtani, if you remember at the beginning of the year, he had a grade 1 UCL sprain, and now it's evolved into a grade 2 UCL sprain. He was placed on the DL. And, when you always hear UCL injuries, it's never good.
Yeah, it's not good. And he received a PRP and stem cell injection, and 16 of the 33 pitchers that received that same injection eventually got Tommy John surgery, and as everyone else feels, and as I feel, Noah added in a note on our document of a sad face next to that.
That's not good at all. This guy, Ohtani, if you think about it, he was going to be like, he even started out like, he's lived up to the hype, if you ask him. He's been really good with the bat, and he's been pitching well, so that's going to be a large hit for the Angels right now.
Yeah, it will be, because, it's, well, not just the Angels, but Major League Baseball in general, because he was one of the big, stories of the season, and one of the big things to follow. Like, you look at Angels attendance, on a normal day, and then you look at Angels attendance when, Ohtani's pitching. It's way up. People come and visit from Japan to come see him. It's gained international press. Stuff like that helps Major League Baseball. It's really a shame to see Ohtani go down.
Yeah, it is. Especially since, like you said, he's so popular right now. It's really helping, widen the population of the sport, too.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about the Angels. And for the Angels, I feel like this just puts them out of, contention for the AL West, and they're getting close to being out of contention for the wild card spot for me.
I don't think anybody really thought they'd get to the AL West, especially with the Astros coming off a World Series and still having a really, really good team. I don't think anybody really thought that they were going to win the AL West, but I think a lot of people thought that this is going to be a team that's going to make the wild card for almost for sure, and this is going to really put a blow in their chances of even getting to that.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to win the AL West. I thought AL West was going to go to the Astros for sure. I mean, the Mariners are up there right now. But at the start of the year, when the Angels, when they looked really good, you could tell that Ohtani wasn't a complete bust and, waste of time. Then, you're thinking, maybe if they get a few pieces going and then Houston doesn't perform as well as they're expected to, then maybe they have a shot.
They can take advantage of that and take over the West.
Yeah, but now it's like, I don't know if they have a chance of making the playoffs, which sucks for especially Mike Trout, who carries his team every day.
I mean, to be fair, they still have a really good team. Like, their pitching has been pretty good this year. And you saw, like you said, Trout, and then they have Upton and I was about to say Simmons, but he was also placed on the DL.
He was?
Yeah.
For what?
I remember he was placed on the DL, like, right around the time Ohtani was.
Dang, man. That's tough. Simmons is such a good defender for them, too.
Yeah.
Well, it's a sad day for baseball. I mean, yeah, that's tough. But Edwin Jackson has signed with his 13th team, the Oakland Athletics. And
yeah, that's pretty. It's always fun to see some pitchers that go that long with that many teams.
I don't even know if that's sad or if it's a good thing. Because
if you think about all these teams didn't want him at one point, and so they got rid of him.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's pretty cool, but it's also pretty sad when you think about it. Because, you think about who's going to get traded, right? It's never going to really be, like, a superstar player unless, you're the Marlins, right? But, unless you're, like, rebuilding or you're the Miami Marlins, you aren't really going to trade your superstar player, right? Like, the Giants would never trade Posey. But, to be moved around that much, it's just bizarre.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, it's not like he was ever on a championship team for a long period of time. Like, the only ones that, if you look at his resume, he's been with that were really good was St. Louis in 2011 and St. Louis in 2011, Nationals in 2012, and Nationals in 2017. If you think about, like, the teams that he's been on that were actually good and had a chance.
Yeah. And then the Nationals still can't get past the first round, so they're out. This isn't his. Well, it's his 13th team that he's been with in the MLB. Yep, but his 14th organization, which is up there with the all times, and
with Dotel,
the all-time leader Octavio Dotel, he started off his career as a starter, and then he became a relief pitcher. And he got moved around, 14 times?
14, I think that's... Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 14.
Dude, that's insane. Yeah, like, I feel like it's easier for relief pitchers to be moved, right? Because they're relief pitchers, and there's more roster spots for them, if that makes sense, than, like, a catcher or a first baseman or a second baseman.
Yeah,
right?
I get what you're saying with that.
Because, like, relief pitchers just get traded more. They'll be a deal. They're usually, like, unless it's a deal that's designed to get a reliever, like an Aroldis Chapman, like the Aroldis Chapman trade with the Cubs or whatever, then sometimes teams will just throw in and exchange a relief pitchers, for fun or whatever, right? So then he can get thrown into that, right?
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, oh, I think the deal's too one-sided here, have a relief pitcher or something,
Yeah, they're kind of just, like, thrown in to help balance out a trade sometimes, it seems like.
Yeah, but, man, can you imagine playing for, like, 14 teams?
That would feel weird. Like, you don't have a permanent home. Like, some MLB players, they play with one team their entire career, and they say that was their home for, like, 18 years of their life, and this guy he hasn't been with the team for more than like a few years before he's shipped off to somewhere else.
Yeah, you could like never buy a house, man. You'd have to always be on rent. Like you could never like actually own a house because that'd just be horrible.
Yeah, I mean, how many homes do you think Edwin Jackson has had to stay in?
Oh my gosh. Probably a lot. Okay, we're going to move on to the draft, which we're going to talk about for the rest of this podcast because there are quite a few things to cover with the draft, whether it's Pitt's individual or just the MLB draft in general. So, Luke Heimlich, who was the pitcher from Oregon State, who did a lot of bad things, okay, he was not selected in the draft.
And there's a really good reason why he wasn't selected.
Okay. A lot of people know the reason, so there's really no reason to say it here.
Yeah.
But, so he was expected to go high in the draft last year, okay, but then that whole case surfaced, right? So then all 30 Major League teams pass on him in all 40 rounds of the draft. He wasn't touched, right? And this year you're thinking, oh, maybe someone will take a chance on him in like, I don't know, the 20th round or something, right? And then he goes undrafted again. So I'm not really sure what the future is going to be for him. I mean, he is a great talent on the field, 2-time Pac-12 Pitcher of the Year. But I feel like teams are just kind of scared, PR.
Yeah, because they don't want that reputation of having the guy that did that,
Yeah. I mean, like, he did it when he was 15 years old, right? But still, I mean...
You just don't shake that reputation off.
Yeah, at all, ever. He pleaded guilty to it, which was, you know, not good for him. But it's just like I don't know what team would take a chance on him, really, if you think about it. Like, this could legitimately he could just not get selected, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he just kept getting unselected either.
Well, not even unselected. Like, would someone sign him in free agency? Because as soon as someone signs him, then
That's going to be all over the news.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone wants their team to be, that team, right?
Yeah.
Like, because if he becomes a free agent, then he can sign with whoever he wants. But would anyone give him a contract is really my question. Not really because of his talent. If that didn't happen, he probably would have gone first, second round. Would be my guess. Yeah,
he's talented, but also has a history, not a good history.
Mm-hmm. 2-time Pac-12 Pitcher of the Year. Goes unselected in the Major League Draft, but you know who did get selected, and probably a great move, and a great move for baseball. The White Sox selected Matt Plug in the 38th round, where if you don't know who he is, he wasn't, a very touted prospect. He probably would have gone undrafted, but his mother passed away in 2016. His father passed away due to cancer last November. He also lost his best friend. I believe it was to a brain tumor. And the White Sox selected him in the 38th round over the Pac-12, 2-time Pac-12 Pitcher of the Year, which is...
Yeah, but, I mean, what would you rather pick? The guy that has, the history we know he has, or the guy that just, lost everything within the last 2 years?
Yeah, so good for the White Sox. Good job, White Sox.
White Sox, I'm picking that guy.
Yeah, and they didn't even do it in the 40th round. They did in the 38th. So, good job, White Sox. And we also have another player to add to the list of awesome draft names. Because last podcast, we talked a lot about the top picks in the MLB Draft. We talked about some with some pretty interesting names. We had Travis Swaggerty, who was drafted by the Pirates in the first round. We had Seth Beer, who was also drafted by the Astros in the first round. And then now we can add Lars Nootbaar from USC, who was drafted by the Cardinals in, I believe, the 28th round. So I'm going to be cheering for all of these guys.
I am too.
To make it to the major leagues.
I'm still cheering for that South Korean prospect, Bay, to come back to the Pirates so they can have Swaggery and Bay playing in the same lineup one day.
Man, let's get them all on one team. That'd be like a super team. But these guys need to make it to the majors so I can purchase their jerseys, because I feel like this is a necessity in my life. But going back to more serious talk, we're going to talk about trading draft picks. So, Noah, if you're a team, are you a fan of trading draft picks at all?
I mean, I'm not really a fan of. But I'm not saying this shouldn't happen. Because if you think about these draft picks, they're drafted when they're 18, and they're likely not going to see the major leagues for another 3 to 5 more years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like teams when they trade. You never see it in Major League Baseball, which is kind of like the weird thing, especially with the draft with 40 rounds, right? You don't really see that much of it at all. Usually in the NBA, it's to complete a trade. It happens in the NBA a lot. Also happens in the NFL quite a bit, but not as much as the NBA. But, it's kind of like, why don't...
It doesn't happen at all in the MLB, though.
Yeah, it's like, why don't teams do this more? Like, are draft picks valued that little that it's just not used that much? That's my only guess, because in the NBA and the NFL, and sometimes even the NHL, you draft a player out of college, right?
They're on the team the next week.
Yeah. They're automatically on the team. Sometimes they're automatically even starters, depending on how bad your team is, right?
Yeah.
And then they could become like stars of your team, win Rookie of the Year, blah blah blah. In their first year as a professional, period. You know, like no matter what level they're at. But in Major League Baseball, you know, it usually takes guys a minimum of 3 years before you even see them again or hear about them.
Very rarely will you see guys get drafted and then play either in the same year or the year after. Like the last guy I could think that did play in the same year he was drafted was Sale in 2010, Chris Sale.
Mm-hmm. Like the earliest we'll see like Swaggerty and Seth Beer if they make it up there is 2021, 2022.
2022, yeah, probably sometime around there. Maybe that's not even, you know, they might not even come to like 2023, 2024. You know, they could spend a good 3-4 years down the minors.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that I love about the MLB draft, which is kind of like, you know, a team, if you know they're making a trade, right? Let's say like the Cubs are trading for Machado or something, right? You know, if they wanted to throw in like their next year first round pick, you know, to the to you know, and send it to the Cubs or no
to the Orioles.
No, yeah, to the Orioles. My bad. Then you know it's kind of like okay, you know they're missing out on a first round pick, but to remember in the MLB draft and just like any other draft doesn't have as much in the NBA, but it does in the MLB draft a lot. You could get really good pitch all the way till the very end of the draft.
Yeah, it's a lot of those players like you see like Pujols was drafted in like the 12th round, and so was Nolan Ryan. He was drafted in the late round. Like sometimes you just never know what these guys are going to do.
Mm-hmm. Like in the NBA draft, there's I don't know 2 rounds or something like that, right? There's not a lot of rounds in the NBA draft, so those picks are valued pretty high, right? But in the MLB draft, it's kind of like, you know, if you could trade away your first, second, and your third round pick, sure you'd have a less chance of having, you know, a good draft class, but it's not like you're just throwing away that entire draft class.
Yeah.
So
there's such an abundance of players that, you know, you can choose. You're going to choose 40 players. You're going to choose up to 40 players at the most. And who's not to say that there's a good chance that one of those 40 is going to be good. One of them.
Yeah, so
you have a 1 in 40 chance of getting something good.
If I'm a team, I would trade draft picks probably more, you know, depending on the situation. You know, usually instead of, you know, throwing in a draft pick, you know, to sweeten a deal, teams will throw in like, you know, some relief pitcher you've never heard of.
Cash or something.
Yeah, some cash, like $500K, right? Because, you know, on the receiving end, teams will usually be like, oh, yeah, I'll take the $500K or I'll take that player over the draft pick, which I don't really understand, but that's basically the way it is.
Yeah.
So, now the MLB draft in general, I have a big problem with.
What is your problem with it, Dawson?
Okay, I made a video on this, but I want to talk about it a little bit more because the Major League Baseball draft, it's bad. It like I'm not talking about players getting drafted. No, I'm not talking about like the minor leagues and the process of going through the minors up to the majors. No, the MLB draft just in general, it's not good. It's trash, honestly. Like, okay, watch the NBA draft, watch the NHL draft, watch the NFL draft, and then watch the MLB draft, and then you could just see how different it is in so many different ways. Like, you look at, like, the first thing that really comes to mind is the crowd. Major League Baseball this year, they had, like 40 people in the stands in Studio 42?
When you watch all the other drafts, there's, like, all the families of all the players that could get drafted, and then some.
Mm-hmm. And the stadiums are, like, filled, and, like, you know, wherever they're at, like, I think the most recent NBA draft, so the 2017 NBA draft, I'm pretty sure it was at the Barclays Center in New York, and it was just filled. It was packed, right? Everywhere. And then you go to the MLB Draft in
It's
Studio
all the
42, and there's like 5 people.
The only people that aren't most of the people that are there are people who are broadcasting it, news reporters or scouts. That's most of the people there.
At the draft, there should be more fans than anyone else, period. And can we talk about players not showing up for the draft?
Yeah, that's something else that you brought up.
Okay,
I want to kind of talk about a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that Major League Baseball doesn't fly out draft pitch. That want to be there. Like, they have to pay for their own flight to get there.
I didn't know if they did or not there.
Which is
with, flying out people.
That's stupid, man. Why can't we get that paid for, please? Somebody.
Why can't they offer like all the players that are likely to go in the first round, like tickets to come to Studio 42 or something,
Mm-hmm. Okay, it shouldn't be in Studio 42 at all.
Or wherever it is.
It should be at, I don't know, Madison Square Garden. Well, not Madison Square Garden, but I'm pretty sure Madison Square Garden's probably booked for something a little more important than the MLB Draft. But I don't know, Barclays Center. I don't know, Staples Center.
Fly them out wherever they're gonna be.
Wherever the draft is gonna be. Okay, figure it out. And I want all of the first round draft picks there, or at least the ones that want to be there. There will always be the players. I won't understand this, but there will always be the players that want to, be at home with their families, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But, if you're trying to tell me that only there was like 5 or like 6 people in the first round that were drafted in this year's MLB Draft that were there, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, right? Like, you mean to tell me they're the only ones that wanted to show up? No.
I feel like some maybe wanted to come out, but just couldn't.
I don't buy that. Someone also brought up the point that, some guys are like in, regionals right now in the NCAA, right? They right before Omaha,
Yeah.
So that I can understand, but guys that are getting drafted out of high school in the first round, hello? Why aren't you there? and can there be a way we can work around the regional thing to get even the guys from college there?
Yeah,
that's
you're
what
the MLB. You're very powerful in what you do with baseball. There is nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but getting fans there, having the players there would be a factor. I mentioned this in the video, and I want to restate it here. It will never be as big as the NBA and the NFL and the NHL draft are, because those players have an immediate impact on their team the next season. And the way the media is right now, Major League Baseball isn't very popular at all with mainstream media, period. So
it's just not going to get as much attention.
Well, it's not going to get as much attention if, they don't show some effort, which I haven't seen any effort at all. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up today's podcast. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to drop a like on the video if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe to the Secondary Leads podcast channel. And we will see you guys on the next podcast on Monday.